Good afternoon. I guess I'll start with this. Woo. The exchange. So why am I starting with this? Well, because before I get into it, I experienced just a little bit of doubt. Just a little bit, because I've been doing this for a while. But there's a moment where I think to myself, I could fail. I could fail, the stick could fall. In this dynamic, it's not that bad. I could just start the tape over and give it another shot. If it was live in front of you, it might be a little bit more intense. The sensation of doubt that rages through me. And so I have to use something to move from that sensation to a more useful place. And I use faith. I use not just faith in myself, but faith in a technique. And we're going to talk about that today. That faith for the actor can be a very powerful and very specific tool that you can call upon, just like your concentration or getting into a connection with your scene partner or with your material. It is something that is applicable. It's something that you can use, even though something as intangible as faith seems like it could be ethereal. In reality, it can prove to be very useful if you start to explore it. So, where to begin? I guess at the beginning. My name is David Weber. I'm an adjunct instructor of theater at Young Harris College. I have been a teacher of acting since 2002, when I was a teaching artist with the Atlanta Shakespeare Company. And I found that teaching the Shakespeare play shops made me a better Shakespeare actor. And so I very selfishly grasped onto it because I liked what it was doing for me personally. Now I do it because I want to help you. I want to give you a viewpoint or a tool that I didn't have when I was your age. And it's a very personal thing, which I hope can be useful for you today. Under these circumstances, I wish I could be there in person and we could explore things like stick work in this dynamic in terms of how to use faith as an actor's tool. But hopefully this will be enough that if you have an audition later on tonight, or if you had to go into a workshop, or if you had to put yourself into a situation where normally you would experience a great amount of personal interference, that you would have a tool to get out of it. Yes. So when I refer to the actor, I'm referring to all genders. I'm not specifically thinking of the binary male, female. I'm thinking of the human being who acts. That said, I'm going to ask you, what is your definition of acting? What is this thing that you're doing when you act? Do you have one? Think. It's a craft and it's a skill. The thing that you're doing should be as specific as a doctor making an incision on the patient. It's something that has very little room for error when you do it. And so it would help you to have a definition of that thing that you're doing. I often think about swimming. What is the definition of swimming? And usually when I ask that, people will just say, it's swimming. But there's a definition to it. And the definition has certain parts so that you can look at it and go, if I'm doing that, I'm swimming. If I'm not doing that, I'm not swimming. I'm floating, or I'm splashing around in the water. So with swimming, the dictionary has a few definitions. One that I think is useful is swimming is a sport or activity. So it starts being very, very specific. You can compete in this, or you can do it as a hobby. It's a sport or activity where you propel yourself through water using your arms and your legs. That's a very specific definition for swimming. If you're not doing that, you're not swimming. And you could get a sense that if you do that, then, and you're competing at that, then you can do certain things to strengthen your muscles so you can propel faster. Just like acting. There's a very specific thing that you're doing when you are acting. And you can train that thing so that you can do it better. And I use the better because it's relatable to us. What is good acting? What is bad acting? I don't know. It's all in the mind of the beholder, right? But if you know what you're doing, hopefully you won't have to be in the vague area of, was I believable? Was I good? Was I bad? Was I not enough? Was I over the top? All of those diagnostic judgments that the actor usually goes through are not useful. Ask Jim Carrey if he's over the top. Ask Robert De Niro if he is if he's minimalistic. Ask Denzel Washington if he's playing it safe or not believable, right? None of these. Ask Viola Davis if she's honing her truth. I mean, all these things are subjective. In the doing, the actor needs to have something more tangible that they can hang their hat on. And so, again, faith, what is that thing? Well, you can start with your definition of what acting is. In your body, that you know that you're either doing it or not doing it. So back to the stick work. I can wing it and give it a shot and, stab into the dark and hope that I arrive at that balance and coordination. Or I can follow a technique that will give me some consistency while also allowing some element of surprise and spontaneity, which is what I have with this. It's a technique that takes 3 parts. I have to do each one, and I have to focus on each part of the technique. And when I do that, I'll have consistency almost every time. If I don't do that, I have something that I can go, oh, I was distracted. And then I could put my attention back on whether it's on the first, second, or third part that I lost my focus. And that will make more sense to you, obviously, when you have your own way into this. But faith in your in your technique is going to be a very useful tool for you. And it starts with your relationship into it. So to have a definition of what acting is going to help you more than it's going to hurt you. So there's a couple definitions that we can think about. We can think about Stanislavski gave us a definition about acting that he started by trying to codify human behavior. How do you do that with consistency? How do you do that night by night by night by night and not have that room of error, of being on it one night and being off it the other night? And so this definition started to become articulated about living truthfully on stage, or behaving truthfully on stage. And then Sanford Meisner took that germ and that nugget and has the phrase acting as living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. Again, it's a great textbook definition, but then how do you do that? How do you do that? Because in life, we think not what we're going to say, and we say not what we mean, and we do that all the time. That's what we do in life. I think one thing, but I say something else by my habit. And so if you were to ask me now, David, what is your truth? I would say, I don't know. I mean, I feel it. I have an understanding of what my truth is. But when I was 17, I had absolutely no idea what my truth was at all. And I was going into a conservatory of acting training that was demanding it. So I was always filled with a tremendous amount of interference because of that definition that I was supposed to know my truth. And I started to think that my truth and believability were the same thing. So I started training thinking that I needed to be believable. And that wasn't very useful for me. And so as my journey continued, I've had to find a different definition of acting that can be useful for me. I began finding that my definition of acting when I was doing it or when I wasn't doing it was dependent on an outside source, meaning you. And that's not too bad. Like if I'm acting well, I will get a reaction from my scene partner. And when I'm doing it great, I will get a really huge reaction from the audience. Or if I'm doing it well in an audition, I'll probably get a callback. And if I'm doing it great in an audition and I make the camera person or the casting director feel something, then I'll get the part. Intuitively, that becomes something that I noticed. So how to codify that? When I went to graduate school, my professor, Hugh O'Gorman, has a definition of acting that speaks to me. Acting for him is playing action to make your scene partner feel something in service to the event of the scene. A definition that has parts to it that I can do. When I'm doing that, I'm acting. When I'm not doing that, I'm exploring, I'm figuring it out, which is okay. But most importantly, I know the difference. So I have faith now in a definition that serves me, that I can use broadly at any time, when it's an audition, or first rehearsal, or performance. But usually, faith as a tool is not necessary when it comes to opening night because we're so rehearsed and we're ready to share our gift. We might be feeling a little bit of doubt and we might be feeling a little self-consciousness, but by habit, the show must go on, right? Faith becomes a very important tool early on in a process where we have two choices. We can quit or we can persevere. This is where faith becomes an ultimate tool for you. And this is what I'm hoping for you. Those moments where the doubt is so extreme that you want to run away, or the doubt is so extreme that you decide not to go through with it. Those are the moments that I'm hoping this lecture will help you with. The fact that you will have those moments, I'm hoping will give you a red flag, which is, I'm in a new territory here. We only experience that amount of doubt when we're in new territory. The fact that we have that amount of doubt means that the thing that we are doing is new. And what I'm hoping for you is that becomes a new sensation where instead of it being negative, that it can start to be colored with a little bit of a positive flavor. That's a good thing. If you're in an atmosphere where things are new, you're in the right direction when it comes to your hopes and your dreams. You're moving forward. You're not stuck in the status quo or your plateau. You've actually taken a step towards something that is unknown, which is going to trigger a lot of doubt. When this happens, that's when you can use faith as a new tool. Just based on that, like, wow, okay, I'm experiencing a lot of interference. Interference, basically, to clear the term, an extreme amount of confusion that is making me want to fight or flight, get out of here. That interference then needs something, a lever, if you will, to get out of it. You want to use faith in your technique. You want to know what it is that you're going to do. So if it's a monologue, you want to know three things. You want to know what is your initial event? What is the first thing that you need to do to that person that you're talking to? You need to know when's the highest point of tension in your monologue. What's the climax? And you want to do something. For the sake of this lecture, I would say breathe. Take a big, deep breath at that climax. That's something that you can do. And then you're also going to want to focus on your main event, the whole point. Why did you begin speaking in the first place? And you want to fulfill that so that you end in a way that makes sense to you. You want to end on stage in front of your imaginary scene partner. You don't want to cut it short. Scene. You want to have a bit of finality to it. And you will know that when you explore it. Those three things, you can have faith in that. You can have faith in what I call active analysis or event analysis. That, again, is something that you will learn when you go to study acting. That will be the technique that you're learning. So in your training, in your journey as you move forward, instead of being in front of your professors with this attitude of I am less than, I am trying to impress you, or I need you to think that I am this, how about having a relationship of being a learner, that you are learning this thing so that you can do it? And that's a process. So having faith in the process is something that can always help you as well. It might not be immediate, and there's going to be certain instances where one aspect of this is going to work better for me than it's going to be for you. But I might be speaking to someone right now who's like, yes, that's me. I love having new experiences, but when I get into an audition, I get completely blah, blah, blah. Well, then that would be the thing that you could hang your hat on, that you love new experiences. Go out and have a great experience. Go out and meet people. Go out and do a new thing. That might be enough to get through the interference. I think it will help, though, if you had faith in your definition of acting, that you know what you're doing when you go out into the room in front of people. How that transpires, what you get out of that, well, that's the unknown. We don't know. But at least you know what to do. You know what you're doing, and you know what you want, and you know what you're going to do to get what you want. And that is the thing that you're focused on, as opposed to, I feel gross, or this feels awful, right? And that's what we're doing when we're in a monologue, when we're auditioning in front of someone. We're not acting. What we're really doing is we're surviving. And I want you to have a different experience as a younger actor going through your collegiate training, or give you an example of something that's consistent in the acting training room after a scene in college. Actors will do their scene in front of me, and they will finish, and I will ask, did you do what you wanted to do? And the actors will look at each other and go, yeah, we did. And then I will say, what was that? And then usually they will go, and then start to retell me the circumstances of the scene. That is by habit. That's usually what happens. Very rarely does the actor say, yeah, I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that I was breathing whenever I felt a certain amount of tension overcome me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I saw that. Or the actor will say, I wanted to make sure that I was connected to my scene partner the entire way without being distracted. And I'll be like, yeah, I saw that you did that. I saw that you were trying to maintain a connection with your scene partner. So doing something that's specific for you just requires a little bit of specificity. And it doesn't have to be absolute. It could just be one little thing that you're working on. And then you'll be able to go, I did that, or I didn't do that thing. And that's what you can walk out of the room with. Oh, man, I was not breathing during that moment. And go, okay. So when this happens, I want to make sure that I'm breathing. And then you're learning. If you have something that's very specific, 9 times out of 10, you can go after it with a greater degree of success. So I'm hoping this is helpful. What is doubt? Doubt is uncertainty. Uncertainty that interferes with the decision-making process. It's extreme interference in a disturbing way, a negative experience. The first thing that we need to do is we need to realign a relationship with doubt to make it somewhat positive, to go, I'm in new territory. And then we need to use faith as a tool. And that then becomes the awareness of what are we doing? That can take place physically through breath. Physically, it can happen by looking up or looking to an image, finding a positive sensation that can fill you. Whatever it is, it's something that you need to do. And going to an image is a useful way to get out of a negative sensation. So I'm not saying that we want to eliminate doubt. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. We want to embrace it. We want to embrace it as a red flag that we're in a state of great possibility. Faith gives the student then belief in this potential. And then you then would use your training to do your job, which is whatever your definition of acting is. So I want you to have a definition that works for you, or at least have an understanding of what you want in the room. And if you have faith in that specifically, I believe your auditions are going to go so much better. You will have a goal that is clear enough that your focus will be on that thing as opposed to on self. Your attention will be out and on your target as opposed to in yourself or self-involved. This phenomenon of doubt has been so useful in my career recently from grad school on that it has transformed my experiences. Things that I can assure you I would not have done had I not known this. I would have experienced the doubt, and that would have triggered this negative sensation, which doesn't feel good. So I would stay away from it and go, no, I'm not going to do that thing. Now, because I know what that sensation is, at least I can have faith in that I'm in new territory. And just by the sake of going towards the unknown, I have a greater belief that that is going to work for me than to not do it. So that feeling, that gross feeling of doubt and butterfly ooey-ness starts to transform, and it's a process, into this great possibility. And because of that, I've done things like a one-man show of A Christmas Carol. I just did a Beckett performance, which is like walking on a tightrope. Those are fun, as opposed to not. Like they become projects that I enjoy. Graduate school, in essence, really was an experience in how to use faith as a tool in terms of having faith in a new way of working, or having faith that I had the ability to change my habits. This starts with just a new outlook, a new viewpoint. Performance to me now is a new definition. Performance to me equals potential minus interference. So anytime I'm in interference, I use faith as a tool to get out of it. I use faith as my lever into courage, or to a belief in the possibility of learning something. And that keeps me in the game. My relationship to the craft of acting has has deepened over the years. When I was your age, I was not a big fan of acting exercises, and I loved games. And I had to change that relationship to it. I had to look at these exercises now as something that was going to inform me with some new tools that was going to be positive, as opposed to going towards them and going, ugh, I hate this. With a little bit of faith, I was starting to see that once I moved towards the new thing, at the end of class, I was 9 times out of 10 fulfilled because I did something that I didn't think I was possible of. There's a philosopher by the name of Paul Tillich who writes, "The question then is this: is there a courage which can conquer the anxiety of meaninglessness and doubt? Or, in other words, can we have faith exist without meaninglessness? Is there a kind of faith which can exist together with doubt and meaninglessness?" Faith invites the need to be self-reflective and to exist in a constant state of evaluation. Faith can coexist with doubt. In fact, it needs to. My professor, Alexandra Billings, who's a professional actress and a faculty member at the University of Southern California, I believe now. She was at CSULB, but she trains her students in viewpoints, and she also teaches at the Steppenwolf School. Her whole mantra is to go towards the new, to go towards the possibility of newness, to go for that transformative experience where the students can get lost, but also have faith that they are going to learn something. I was always uncomfortable in those exercises because the experience that I was having was I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and I look like an idiot. And I've had to relearn to go, no, explore, be in a state of a process of evaluation, category of feelings, and use whatever I'm doing as a palette, really. Is when I do this, I feel this. When I do this, I feel this, and just make a category of those things. The sensations that come from an acting exercise have value, and they will contain everything that is essential about your process when you're in the room, because you'll be in the moment. And there is no greater or powerful tool than to be in your own truth at the drop of a hat. Now, if that to you is a negative experience, then you're going to deny a lot of gold for yourself. That heightened frustration that comes with doubt is an amazing thing to witness in another person if you start to use it. The acting student is very brave in moving into these areas of not knowing and giving the audience the permission to look at and see and witness all of our frailty and all of our humanity. Armed with faith, I'm hoping that you dive into those experiences as opposed to having a negative experience of being put in the spotlight, but that you're always in the spotlight, but curious. I said to my professor, Hugh O'Gorman, during graduate school one time, I feel like these acting exercises are just making me jump through hoops. And then he said, yes, David, and I want to light them on fire. And I want you to experience them with the sensation or the quality of joy. And that changed something in me. You as an actor intuitively know how to play. You have a facility with your imagination. You understand character. You have performed plays or films and commercials based on your experience now. There's enough experience that you have in front of you that you can start to have faith in your experience. This, coupled with a tangible craft, will arm you, will serve you, will let you go into places where some people can't thrive or wouldn't even step into because the doubt is so overwhelming. Instead of quitting or shutting down, we as actors have the ability to do something different. We can use faith as a tool to move forward rather than retreat. You can at least have faith that the acting exercise is leading towards growth. I'm not suggesting that this is an easy process. To have faith is hard work. But an artistic process is a lot like a birth in that it's messy, it's laborsome, it's strenuous, it's loud, and it's terrifying. It's spiritual, and it's life-changing. Stanislavski agrees. He said that the type of creativeness in acting is like the conception of a birth of a new being. The person in part is a natural act similar to the birth of a human being that's happening right in front of our eyes, to actually birth another human soul. An actor needs a tremendous amount of nurture and self-care to do things like that. Like all great and challenging things, the actor needs a set of tools that will be ultimately gratifying, or the negative reality will win. It takes courage to explore the unknown, and fate met with doubt or uncertainty will be the way into self-exploration. And this is going to be whether it's going to be taught by whatever your technique is in college, whether it's realism or fantastic realism or musical theater. Just a modicum of faith will get you into a process of evaluation. Like a baby taking a new step, right? Does a baby fall down and punish itself for falling? No. Intuitively, you learned to walk before you could even speak. You have great potential for learning. So the thing that stops us from doing that is our relationship to doubt. And I'm hoping that this lecture gives you a new way in to your own process, and so you can have faith in certain things. Now, if we were together in the room, I would give you some tools that you can use in a monologue that you could start to experience these modulations immediately, but I'm hoping that you ask me about them and we can explore them together in the talkback. I'm really hoping that this is useful to you. I'm a big believer in the actor's process. I admire you for the thing that you're about to do. I think that we are necessary in the world today, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. Thank you for listening to me articulate or be inarticulate in this thing called faith, and I really hope that it was useful to you. I'm looking forward to our chat.